We're shaking, folks. Back with another reaction. Back with some more Cyndi Lauper. Thank you, as always, to Seb, and we're returning to her 1997 album Sisters of Avalon. And the next track is Unhook the Stars. I like the phrase, there's a simple poetic elegance to it. When I first saw it, my thought is perhaps it could relate to a perspective that goes back to the ancient world, which is to say ancient astronomers would look up into the sky and notice that most of the stars were fixed in a particular position at specific times of year, moving only very gradually across the sky as the year played out, whereas a handful of the stars, as they were seen then, were much more mobile and dynamic, moving on a daily basis. We now understand that's because those stars are actually planets in our own solar system, and their relative positioning to Earth as we rotate and orbit around the sun changes in a much more rapid and dynamic way. So I thought perhaps this could relate to relative brightness, an immobility of many stars, but perhaps in contrast to a much more dynamic and mobile activity of the stars that are closer and the way they are unhooked in that fashion, all of which could be fruitful ground for metaphors about human activity and the relative brightness of someone toward another person. It obviously could have nothing to do with astronomy, but I'll see what I can pick up on a first listen. This is Cyndi Lauper. The track is Unhook the Stars, and it's from her 1997 album Sisters of Avalon. Oof.
Just when everything's in order and good, things fall apart. Just when life should be resolving, I'm back at the beginning, and it comes back to the heart. I'm not really sad, I'm not running, I'm looking. Did I tell you I kept all your letters and calls? There's just nothing left for me to do here but unhook the stars. There's just nothing left for me to do here but unhook the stars. Do you remember when I told you all that I could? And it seemed like too much. I was living your life hoping you'd never fall. If I held on tight enough and let it go now, it's like a passport to anywhere. With time on my hands, I can make a new start. I just didn't wanna stay here and unhook the stars. I just didn't wanna stay here and unhook the stars. Don't worry for me, it's just I'm inspired, waiting in the wings, made me drunk with possibilities, rivals my memories. I didn't wanna stay here and unhook the stars. I just didn't wanna stay here and unhook the stars. Everything's in order and good, things fall apart. Just when life should be resolving, and I'm back at the beginning, and it comes back to the heart. I'm not really sad, I'm not running, I'm looking. Did I tell you I kept all your letters and calls? There's just nothing left for me to do here but unhook the stars. There's just nothing left for me to do here but unhook the stars. Don't wanna stay here and unhook the stars. Don't wanna
leads into the next one with that vocal outro. So yeah, I'm not sure if there is any astronomical relevance. I feel like it could just be the way, the world has sort of come undone, given that it felt like everything should be resolving and falling into place, and precisely at that moment she feels like she has to go back to the beginning, but if she has time on her hands, she could still do that. So it feels like there's a disappointment, an end to something that was not expected, but there's still optimism or hope that a new story, a new beginning can be fruitful, and perhaps, the only thing left to do in that timeline and place where she was as it began to happen was unhook the stars, because everything has come down, everything has been taken apart, and to perhaps cycle them over into whatever the new story, the new timeline will be. I'm not sure if that's actually what's happening lyrically, but what I caught is that, again, she gets to this point where right when it seems like things should be going well and fitting into place, it's precisely the opposite. Though again, it didn't seem to be entirely a lament so much as a description of what needs to be done, what she could do if she had the time. And sonically, I really enjoyed it, especially those brief moments at the beginning and between some of the verses where it would go into this deep bluesy type of configuration. And overall, I would say it was sort of this 90s synth blues funk type of hybrid. There was some guitar in there which had some wah or some twang to it. It felt a bit funky, but there was also this organ, like these pad melodies from an organ or a keyboard that had this really like heavy, lush character to them. Her voice was kind of out in front of it all, and it just felt, again, a bit bluesy in certain moments. So an interesting sonic combination of styles and layers. And yeah, just a very far away experience compared to a lot of her 80s stuff, for which she is perhaps most famously known. And I like that. I like that over the course of an artist or a band's duration or catalog or discography, you get some variety. Now, in some cases, that's them pursuing different interests or trying to find different directions. In some case, it might relate to, the trends of the day, and ultimately, an artist recognizing that this is sort of what's happening in different musical fields and being a part of it, whether that's, more artistically curious or perhaps in some cases, just trying to keep up with the audience and make sure you have enough sales because that's what people want. But I enjoy hearing this different and more instrument-driven side of Cyndi's catalog compared to, again, the heavily 80s synth style that was on her first couple albums. And don't get me wrong, I love that stuff too, and that's the stuff that I knew going into this Cyndi deep dive. But again, it's nice to see a different facet, a different shade to her musical palette, if you will. So once again, shout out to Seb. Let me know what you think of this one, and I will see you next time. Peace.